Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to cross the Øresund once again, and we're going to go back to Sjælland in Denmark and revisit a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years, mainly different kinds of IPAs, but a few dark beers as well. But it's always nice to go back to these guys and try some of their new releases. So looking forward to trying this one. Hopefully it's another good beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review we will head down to a little place called Greve to the southwest of Copenhagen, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Alefarm Brewing. So this particular beer is called Hollow Names. It comes in at 8% ABV, and judging by the ingredients list, I think this one is going to be another New England hazy type IPA. So yeah, very curious to see what it has in store for us. This beer was released here in Sweden as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget for June of 2021, and I think this was the only one that Alefarm released over here in Sweden this month. They always tend to release one or two of their beers over here, which is great. But yeah, certainly nice to return to these guys once again. This one is hopped with Mosaic and Amarillo, so it's going to be a bit of an orangey hit, and as you'll know if you've watched the channel for any length of time, that will be right up my street. So yeah, looking forward to it. Let's crack on with this review then. Always nice to review some Danish beers for you here on the channel. As I've told you before, the standard Danish beer these days is awesome, so yeah, check out some Danish beers if you haven't already. But yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Alefarm Brewing before, and I will no doubt add some more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly because I live very close to Denmark in the south of Sweden, and I love trying the Danish beers, of course. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Alefarm Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So Alefarm, as I've told you previously, is the brainchild of Andreas Skid Larsen and Kasper Tiedemann, and the company was founded back in 2015. So Andreas had been a home brewer for a while, but had worked for a period of time as a librarian, whereas Kasper has a very extensive background in the IT sector, and he's also involved in various different companies and organisations, one of which is his own consultancy firm. But originally these guys based the company on a farm north of Copenhagen, hence the name Alefarm. But they soon moved the business to Greve, which is to the southwest of the city, and for a long time they were just brewing very small 200-litre batches. They had a 200-litre brew kit, and this was actually intended as a pilot kit or a transition brew kit essentially. But they continued to grow their kind of output, if you like, over the next couple of years, and build up their customer base and things like this. And then in 2018 they went on an expansion phase, so they opened up a new 20 hectolitre brewery in Greve, which has a canning line, and their beers have been starting to export abroad, which has been interesting to see. But it was at this point that Andreas decided to leave the company, and he went into brewing cider instead. And for a period of time, around this time as well, they also had Mark Walewski brewing for them, who used to work for Beavertown in London, but he's now back brewing with, he's back in London brewing with Mikkeller over there. But the brewery is run on a daily basis by Kasper and his wife Britt, and they're very prolific actually. As of June 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 325 different kinds of beer, and it seems to be on the rise. They seem to produce about 10 new beers every month as far as I can see it at the moment. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. But these guys are very well respected over in Denmark. I actually found it a little bit difficult to find their beers in Copenhagen, which was kind of strange when you consider how close Greve is to Copenhagen. But we seem to get them fairly regularly through Systembolaget over here, so not going to complain about that. It's always nice to have something new from Alefarm. But yeah, most of the beers I've had from these guys, like I said, have been different varieties of IPA, but they do a few darker beers and things like that as well. I think I've had a porter and an imperial stout from this brewery brewery in the past. But definitely a Danish brewery to check out if you're interested in Danish beers, and the standard of stuff over there these days is absolutely great. So yeah, definitely recommend trying some Danish beers if you haven't already. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Alefarm for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have produced. So yeah, that's it for your history section. Let's get on and have a taste of the beer itself. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is awesome. I think I'll be keeping this can, to be honest with you, because the artwork on that is really, really damn impressive. Just craziness, absolute craziness. Really cool. You get some. This is one of the things I love about craft beer. This is why I still buy heavy metal CDs and things. Some of the artwork that you can get on these things are just beautiful. But yeah, it says here, brewed at Alefarm Brewing in Lunigve, Greve, Denmark, forever in awe of the Torres del Pine. So yeah, I think that is probably down in Spain. Going by the name, maybe it's down in Spain or potentially Argentina or something like that. If you look at the landscape, yeah, probably somewhere down in Spain somewhere. It looks pretty cool. I have to say, it does look absolutely beautiful. I need to get down to mainland Spain and have a little look at it. But yeah, you can see on the side here as well, there is the kind of name part of the can. Hollow names, Alefarm Brewing. The nice little symbol there. But yeah, 440ml can, this one. I think I paid 55 Swedish kroner for this. That would translate roughly to €5.50, £5 sterling, and I guess somewhere in the region of $6.50 American, something like that. But yeah, 8% double IPA. This one, I'm guessing from the fact that it's got oats and wheat in it, as well as barley malt, it's going to be a New England one, but it's hopped with Mosaic and Amarillo, and we know these hops quite well. Mosaic, 14% alpha acid, big juicy tangerine notes. Amarillo is about 12% alpha acid, a kind of more oily and quite zesty orangey character. But yeah, it sounds as if it will be very, very nice. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Curious to see what it has in store for us. Hollow names. There we are. So let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. So there we are. I think that's about 3/4 of it into the glass at the moment. Let me just line this up so that my OCD is happy. But yeah, there we go. So as you can see, it's kind of as we would expect from an 8% double IPA. So before the head disappears, you can see that this one's poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head there. I don't think that is a perfect white head, in honesty, but it still looks very good, looks very, very nice. So in terms of the colour of this one, I would describe this as being a very bright kind of mango juice colour. I think it appears a little bit brighter to you on the camera than it does to me with the naked eye, but it's a very bright but still quite rich. How do we say, but still quite rich mango juice colour, this one. So yeah, looks great. Lovely rich kind of yellow. I always like comparing these New England IPAs to different fruit juices, of course, because that's just what their appearance reminds me of. But remember, the colour of your beer is dependent on 1, the type of malts that you use. That determines the magnitude of your colour. 2, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a slightly darker colour of beer. Adjuncts and barrel aging will of course play a role in there as well, but not in this particular beer. Those 2 variables are not at play here. But yeah, it's got a fair level of haze to it, but it's certainly not the soupiest and gloopiest of 8% double IPAs that you are going to come across. The level of haze in these beers, of course, is dependent on the wheat and the oat content mainly, but the yeast can also play a role too. But yeah, it looks rather nice, I have to say. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is, but I think we can have a look at the aroma of this one now, so let's go for it. Curious about this. Ooh, now that smells nice. It does actually smell very nice, this. A little bit different from the other Alefarms I've had as well. So, first off with this one, I'm going to say that from the aroma, It strikes me as being a very barley malt leaning IPA, this one, so it might be that the wheat and the oak content in this are quite minimal compared to others, and that would, that would make sense when the beer is not as soupy and gloopy as some of the other ones we've had. But yeah, for me, the first thing you're going to notice about this is a lovely, soft but quite crisp, white bready, fresh white bready backbone to it, and that, I think, comes out very, very nicely in this one. So yeah. Yeah, the aroma of that is lovely. Yeah, so it's got a big, yeah, soft bready but quite zesty leaning IPA, this one. So thumbs up to Alefarm for the aroma on this one. I think it goes down very, very well. But let's try and break it down for you a little bit more and describe it a wee bit more kind of succinctly. So yeah, as I said, backbone of this beer, definitely soft, white bready. It's got a little bit of that kind of white bready crispness to it, which I think is great. But there's a wee bit of there's a little bit more of a kind of bread crusty type thing in there as well. So yeah, nice kind of bread crusty elements there. A soft white bready character also as well. You can smell a little bit of bitiness from the wheat at the back of the nose too, which I think is great. But yeah, the aroma for this. The aroma from this one is absolutely lovely. Yeah, so definitely a nice little bit of a bitey, wheaty kind of character to this one. There is a good little bit of an oaty presence to the beer too, but as I say, backbone, soft, fresh white bread, bit of bread crust in there. You can smell a little bit of a smoother wheaty layer, and then at the back of the nose, you're really getting a bit of that bitiness from the wheat, and then you get some nice kind of smoother oaty characters on top of that. You can smell a wee touch of kind of brown sugary notes coming out of this beer as well. So you get a little bit of that Werther's Original kind of butter candy sort of thing that I talk about in quite a few reviews. I can definitely smell a wee bit of that in this one. Usually that's the alcohol in the beer that gives you this kind of aroma, especially when it's a sort of New England leaning IPA such as this one is. But you definitely get a wee bit of a more concentrated straight up caramel in this one, and there's one or two kind of biscuity elements in there as well, a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. But I would say I think those are quite minimal, to be honest with you. I would say that it does lean a little bit more towards that kind of Werther's Original butter candy sort of thing. But the malt base here is quite interesting. As I've told you in other reviews as well, I think there's 6 different directions that you can take a New England IPA. They can be farmhousey and yeasty, they can be wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, barley malt leaning and kind of soft bready, rye leaning and grainy, or they can be a little bit more kind of brown sugary leaning. And this one has a few of those things in it, which is very interesting. So yeah, take a little bit of time and just have a go at those, because it does smell. It smells very, very nice, this one, I would say. But yeah, the malty side of this beer, I think, is quite nicely done, and you usually get solid malt bases from Alefarm Brewing. But let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. So definitely a little touch of earthiness to this one on the green component, and that'll be the mosaic that is most likely to give you that. There's the other parts of the green component are quite kind of soft, in honesty. You do get a little bit of floral aromaticity out of the beer, but there's a fair wee bit of a kind of grassy, zesty quality. If anything, I would say the green component leans towards that grassy sort of zesty side of things. But yeah, it works. It works very, very nicely, I have to say. I like how all of that goes together in this one. But yeah, remember, when it comes to New England IPAs, these are of course really more dependent on late edition hops. Late edition hops are the ones that give you the flavour and the aroma, whereas the early edition hops are the ones that give you a lot of the bitterness. West Coast IPAs tend to be more bitter and things like that, of course, more early edition hops. Although they do use late edition hops as well. You've got a trade-off over the period of your wort boil for a beer like this. Yeah, wort boil is going to be about 70 to 90 minutes. So the further you go through the wort boil, the more likely the hops are to give you a sort of how would we say, a sort of kind of grassy, the more likely they are to give you flavour and aroma properties rather than the kind of bittering properties. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, this one is it really leans towards a kind of soft, almost dried, orangey type note. I think it leans a little bit more towards the mosaic in the aroma than it does to the Amarillo. You can smell a little bit of the more oily, thicker orange underneath there, but I think the lighter kind of tangerine notes from the mosaic really kind of shine through in this one. I do get a little hint of an almost pineapple-y quality coming off this one as well, a little bit of a dried sort of pineapple note to this beer. But yeah, soft tangerine oranges coming out of this one, and then just a little touch of a kind of pineapple-y quality. But yeah, it's a nice smelling beer, this one, I have to say. So definitely take a little bit of time to go over the aroma of this one, but I would say that generally speaking, this beer comes across as a more barley malt leaning and soft bready IPA in my mind, and I do like how that goes together. But yeah, I think that is lined up there, so my OCD is happy. There we are. But yeah, I think we can have a taste of this one now. So yeah, this one is the Hollow Names, an 8% double IPA, looking very much like a New England IPA. You can see it has got a wee bit more kind of haze to it now that we've put the last little bit in it. So maybe it'll show a wee bit more of different characters compared to the aroma. But let's have a taste of this one then. So Hollow Names, double IPA, from Alefarm Brewing in Greve to the southwest of Copenhagen in Denmark. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers. Ooh, that's nice. This one, as I was saying, is kind of right up my street. It's the stuff that I was saying about it being a nice light and sort of more kind of crisp barley malt leaning New England IPA, that holds true, and it's got a lovely little bit of orangey character to it. So this one is pretty much right up my street. I like this one personally. Remember, beer is subjective and different people like different hops and different flavour profiles and all this, but this one is right up my street. I just bought it. I didn't know what hops were in it. I just bought it because it was an Alefarm beer, and I like having a few Danish beers every month. We can't really get over the border into Denmark at the moment, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, I always try and pick up a few of the Danish beers in the local assortment. I always try to get a few of the Norwegian ones as well. But yeah, this beer suits me down to the ground actually. Solid beer, this one. But as I say, one of the lighter and more kind of crisp, but it's really a barley malt leaning New England IPA, this one. So a bit different from what we've had before from Alefarm actually. But let's try and break this down for you a little bit and describe the flavour properly. So straight away across the middle of your palate then, you can feel that nice soft white bready character there. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. You can feel that the further you go into the aftertaste, it does give you a little bit of a kind of grainy character, which is interesting. So yeah, you will get a little bit of graininess building in this beer the further that you go into the aftertaste. If you go to either end of that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit more of a kind of bread crusty quality in there as well, which is great. So yeah, I like that about this beer for sure. That kind of crispness that it has is interesting, but what you will notice about that malt base is that it does thicken up a wee bit the further that you go into it. It's got a nice kind of smooth, on top of that kind of more crisp barley malt white bready character that you've got. You can definitely feel a little bit of the smoother wheaty element in there, and then as you go down that middle line of your palate, in the middle third of your tongue, you can feel the thicker oaty characters, and those just those kind of spread out. They kind of spread out towards the edge of your palate, and the oats kind of sweeten up a little bit the further that you go into the aftertaste too. It's quite a straight shooting malt base in a lot of ways, but I think it works. On top of the oaty character, in the dead kind of centre of your palate, you've got a little kind of circle or a little oval, and that has the kind of that has a sort of kind of butter candy, Werther's Original type flavour that I was talking about. This is where you're getting the alcohol flavours out of these beers, which is obviously more prominent in a double IPA. But in the dead centre of your palate, you do get a kind of concentrated sort of sweet caramel to the beer, so you can get a proper straight up sweet caramel there sitting on top, pardon me, of the Werther's Original sort of thing. And then as you move into the as you move further back from that, you get a nice little bit of a how do you say, you get a nice little bit of a more kind of biscuity, you get a little bit more of a sort of biscuity McVitie's Digestive kind of thing out of this. I always like, McVitie's Digestive is just such a good descriptor for the flavours that you get in some of these beers. But yeah, you get a little bit more of that kind of grainy, biscuity type, cookie-like sort of sweetness on this one as you move out towards the kind of extremities of that middle third of your palate. But yeah, the middle third of your tongue of this one, there's nothing really unexpected about this, but I think it comes across really nicely. And as I say, overall, the malty character in this beer leans towards that... the malty character leans a little bit more towards that kind of crisp, bready, malty kind of thing. But yeah, gets a thumbs up from me. I like the malty backbone in this one. So yeah, back third of your palate then. I think, as you move towards, you do get a wee bit on that almost border region. You get a little bit of that. You get a wee bit of a sort of bready build up again. You get one or two little bread crusty elements in there. You almost get a wee hint of that kind of banana-y type thing that you get from, say, a Hefeweizen. You do get a little touch of that in the kind of border region there. And then as you go into the back third of your palate, you can feel that the wheat becomes more the base of the beer, and it gets distinctly more kind of bitey. It's got a little bit more of that kind of bitey, spicy, wheaty sort of thing the further back that you go on the palate. Sitting on top of that back third of your palate, you get a little bit more of a kind of yeast, you get a bit more of the yeasty quality coming out of this one, so you can feel that nice airy yeasty flavour sitting on top of the back third of your palate. So when you start at the back of your palate, you get a nice kind of, you can feel that the flavour's a bit taller. You've got all these airy yeasty kind of things in there. It condenses down as you go further forward, and then as you go into the middle third of your palate, it's a little bit more kind of condensed and squashed together, which I think works really well. But yeah, I like how that goes together. So yeah, the malty side of this beer is quite nice, I would say. And the malty and yeasty side of things go together really well. But yeah, you can feel the wheatiness, I think, becomes a bit more prominent in this one. And as I say, you get a wee bit of that almost banana-y Hefeweizen type thing coming out of this beer the further that you go into the aftertaste. But let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer now. So, hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, there is definitely a little touch of a kind of earthy quality there. As you move further forward, there's a little bit of a kind of herbal note. So yeah, nice kind of stronger earthy sort of thing, a little bit of a herbal kind of quality. And then as you push further forward onto the front corners of the palate, there is a nice little bit of floral aromaticity to this beer. So yeah, I really like how this goes together as well, actually. But yeah, it works. It certainly does work quite nicely. So yeah, how would we say, as you go around the front curve of the palate, definitely a little bit lighter and grassy, and it has got a wee bit of zestiness coming out of it. And I say the zesty characters are a little bit more likely to come from the Amarillo in my experience. But yeah, the earthiness from the Mosaic and the more zesty kind of grassy characters, I think, are from the Amarillo. But I like it. I certainly do like that on this beer. But yeah, front third of your palate then, and the fruity esters. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again there's a wee bit of a bready build up in there, one or two, a little bit more of a kind of grainy bread crusty type quality there though, and the base of that front third of the palate is a little bit more kind of smooth and wheaty actually. So yeah, it's kind of a smooth wheaty kind of quality that comes out of this one. But yeah, sitting on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer, and it is all about the orange in this one. So normally the back half would be a little bit more about tropical fruits, whereas the front half of the front third of your tongue would be a little bit more, it would be a little bit more kind of, how would you say, about the kind of more citrusy, zesty kind of things. But this one is all about the orange. So on the front half of that front third of your tongue, you feel the oily Amarillo type orange coming out of this one, and sitting on top of it you can feel the lighter kind of tangerine elements there, and they sort of spread into the into the back half of the the palate as well, the back half of that front third of your tongue too. So you get the lighter tangerine elements in there, and you can feel a little bit of a sort of pineapple-y character coming out of the beer as well, which I very much like. So yeah, it works out very nicely in that sense, I have to say. So yeah, big thumbs up to Alefarm on this one. The fruits are quite straight shooting, as I say, more oily, rich orange in there, a little bit of a lighter tangerine, and just a wee touch of pineapple for me. So yeah, this beer is right up my street, and that's kind of why I've enjoyed this one so much. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again, and of course we've got that lovely artwork on it too, which is a bit of a bonus. But yeah, let's round off the review with the mouthfeel then. So overall, I would say that the mouthfeel of this beer is it's kind of right in the middle of the spectrum. I'd call this a mid-bodied beer. The carbonation is quite smooth, but you know, the whole beer does have a wee bit of crispness to it because of the more kind of barley malt leaning base that it has. But yeah, I'd say it's got a wee bit of kind of slickness and things to it as well, which I certainly like. So yeah, the flavour profile on this one, I think, works. It works very, very nicely. So it gets a big thumbs up from me in that sense. So yeah, I certainly like that about this beer. This one really grows on me even more the more that I drink of it. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, what can we say about the bitterness of this beer? It's certainly not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. I think this might be a fairly standard sort of 25 or 30 IBU beer, this one. Maybe, you know, the absolute maximum I would say for this would be 40 IBUs, but remember, this is my weakest point of beer reviewing. The IBU counts are something that I always mess up, so a pinch of salt always with my IBU counts that I do. But yeah, like I say, the malt base in this one is lovely and smooth. It gets a little bit crisper the further you go into the aftertaste. There's an element of sweetness in there, as we've talked about, and as I say, one of the more barley malt leaning and kind of bready New England hazy IPAs that we've come across. The fruits are you know, they've got a bit of an oily slickness to them, which I can certainly appreciate, and it really leans towards that big zesty kind of orangey sort of thing. So I really like this one. This beer ticks a lot of my boxes, but remember, beer is very subjective and different people like different things. But yeah, this is a nice kind of crisp barley malt leaning and orangey zesty IPA, so ticks the boxes for me. And yeah, I guess we can leave it at that for this review then. So this one is the Hollow Names, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA with Mosaic and Amarillo. Big juicy orangey characters, and a kind of more crisp barley malt leaning base in this one, but it works very, very well. So big thumbs up to Alefarm. Let's leave it at that for this review. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Alefarm. We will no doubt return to these guys. I think they've got another beer coming out next month, which I'll probably review. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that, but we will be reviewing more Danish beers over the next little while as well. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Slange, skull, cheers, and thank you again for watching.